explanation of how I've been using view mode as a model editor for navigation in Emacs. So view mode is a built-in package that allows you to kind of quickly view a file, and it makes it read-only so you don't accidentally you know, introduce changes into it. And what occurred to me recently is that that is probably 70% of what I use a model editor for. So, there is the editing the file and there is navigation. And navigation is kind of like a really important part of, if you're reading code, if you're trying to figure out what's going on, it's really nice to just be able to jump around. So view mode is actually really good at that. Of course, there's other model editors in the Emacs ecosystem. There's Evo, which is essentially a port of Vim into Emacs, and it's absolutely fantastic. I've been using it myself originally, but then I found that it kind of lives as a layer on top of Emacs, which kind of obfuscates a lot of the awesomeness that Emacs has under the hood. Which is why I moved away from it. I switched to Boon for some time, which tries to be an ergonomic model editor, which is not evil, and it's a really cool package. If you don't know about it, you should really check it out. But in a very similar way to Evil, it takes over everything and becomes the way that you interact with your editor, which is not something that I wanted. There are other model editing solutions. There is Modalka, and Rio Model, Raw Your Own. They have the same philosophy. They basically give you a small set of features that implements a model editor-like interface, but you're then responsible for setting up all of your own key bindings. And I've been using Modalka a lot, actually. But what I recently found out is that most of the things that I was using this for could be implemented within view mode, and that struck me as being a really cool thing. And I've been using view mode ever since. So view mode has a small set of features. It's really to view a file and not to edit it. And it's not a model editor, so you don't have composable key bindings or any fancy macro replay stuff. It's really just to view files. You might be familiar with Dired, and in Dired, the directory editor, you can navigate with N and P, which is essentially what I wanted to have in my standard files as well. And that is the primary thing that I use it for. View mode, again, is a built-in package, so you don't have to install anything on top, which is really cool. And all of this kind of gives you a really consistent Emacsy interface that doesn't feel like you are reinventing the wheel, but you're using the cogs that you've been provided with. And standard keys in Emacs still work, so I can use Control N and Control P to navigate, which is fine, or I can use my N and P to navigate around things as well. Let's switch to a Dired buffer. Here's a listing of the built-in themes, and pressing N and P moves around, so that's nice. If I want to open a file, I can just hit enter, and here I am. So here I am on top of the Mysterioso theme. The point is that usually when you open a file, you don't want to start typing into it directly. Chances are you're reading some code that either you or somebody else has written before, so you usually just want to search around stuff. If you hit S in default view mode setting, it would take you into iSearch, which is the standard search package for Emacs, and you can navigate around. And using search for navigation is a fantastic thing, a fantastic habit to have. So here we are, we jump to the place that we want, and let's say that we want to put a little bookmark here. If we hit M, it would offer us to insert a character to identify this position in the buffer with a register. So I've created two here before, but let's create a new one, call it A, and it's there. So if I go to the beginning of the file, I can hit quote A to go back where I went. Of course, I can have more than one. I can put one here, put one there, and then I could jump around the locations as much as I please. This is really useful if you have a large file that you need to kind of alternate between two locations. Let's say that you are writing the implementation and then maybe you put in the tests like right on top, or you're writing the doc screen, or you want to get the signature of the file, whatever. There's many uses that this is really good for, and it is something that became like a habit for me to use this marking and moving around. And it's been really good, and I'm really happy that view mode has it on the top level. So let's jump to the config that I have, and this is in Scratch. So as I mentioned, Vue is a built-in package, but I'm still using the use package package to configure it. It gives a nice declarative configuration, which is really cool. I'm also using Straight as the package manager. So, but if you're not, you are probably using standard package.el, which is built in. And to make sure that a built-in package is not attempted to be pulled down from, say, Melpa or some other package archive, you would do something like this. You would print ensure nil to ensure that the package is not actually pulled. But for me, this is straight nil. Okay, so I've bound F13 to be the toggle for view mode. This is kind of a weird thing, but essentially what I have is my right shift is actually bound to F13, and it's a pretty big key that I don't use as much. It's quite similar to how Vim users would remap their caps lock to escape, but this is kind of like caps lock but on the opposite side of the keyboard. You can map this to whatever you want, but this is a mapping that I've been using and I've been really happy with. So then, the really two big differences that I've put in are these two. So I have N for forward line and P for previous line, and that's it. That's kind of the name of the game. There's a bunch of other bindings. You're free to map as many things as you want into view mode, and can have as complicated of an interface. But I found that these three things basically cover the majority of how I use this. The only other thing that I wanted is to have a nice visual indication of which mode I'm in. In Vim, you would usually have insert or command kind of or normal, I guess, at the bottom. And here you also have the view indicator right here that pops in and out. But it's I also wanted to make sure that my cursor actually changes. And here's the code for this. It's pretty simple. It essentially sets the default cursor first, and then it says whenever view mode is ran, also execute a different function, and that just changes the cursor type based on the view mode setting. So that's it. And this very simple configuration really covers a lot of my use cases. And I thought it was quite remarkable that you can take a built-in feature in Emacs that is intended for something completely different, but it's so versatile that you can use it for something new, and it's actually pretty good at it as well. So there you have it.